Welcome to another episode of the camper build. All right, let's get right to the top rail here. This is 1 inch by 2 inch 80/20, which is this right here. And it is 8.5 feet long. So originally I wanted to have it, I think 9.5 or 10 feet long. And that's because I wanted to have it extended out as far as possible to allow room to get off the bed when it's deployed. So with a queen size bed right now, it'll come out to about right here. So I have a couple feet to get off the bed in the middle of the night to let the dog out or go to the bathroom or something like that. So I think that's enough room, but I may revisit extending this out later. But I'm just going to go ahead and go with the 8.5 feet. So what I was going to do for originally was, I was going to have a 6-foot piece, which is actually this piece right here, which is, I was going to use this for the cap, the truck cap or topper or truck canopy, whatever you want to call it. And this 6-foot piece was going to be over the bed of the truck, and then when I wanted to use the camper, I would take the capper off or the truck canopy off and take it apart, and then use this as part of the camper and extend this forward, and then put a piece on the back and attach them together. But I'm not going to do that now. I'm just going to stick with the 8.5 for now. And if I do extend it, I'm going to extend out the nose of the camper. So I know there's a few people out there that are using the 15 series 80/20, which is going to be a little bit bigger than what I have here. It's 1.5 inches by 3 inch or 1.5 inches by 4.5 inches. I think that would work a lot better because it can hold a lot more weight. I think it looks better and you can attach things to it easier. But I'm really trying to keep the weight down and also try to keep as low profile as possible. So I'm going to continue to work with the 1 inch by 2 inch and see if I can get it to work. If I need to go to the 1.5 inches, it shouldn't be that big of a problem. I just need to change the bolt patterns on my brackets here. But the problem here with the 1 inch by 2 inch is that it can't hold the weight. So it starts to bend when you put a lot of weight on it. Which wasn't going to be a problem with the design I had, but I've kind of redesigned everything. So now I got to come up with a solution to kind of brace this to keep it from moving. I don't want to keep pulling it down because it's starting to bend. Instead of it was, coming down and then springing back up, and now it's not springing back up that much anymore. So I'm going to go over what I was going to do, and then I haven't come up with an idea of how I'm going to fix the problem yet. But we'll figure that out. So I didn't get any footage of putting the top rail on, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You have your brackets with your post attached to the bolts, and then on the other side you have your T-nuts coming from underneath. And so the one side I tried to slide it in, get all your T-nuts lined up, and then you slide your rail on, but it's such a long piece it wasn't working for me. So on the other side, what I did was I just took the T-nuts, well, the T-nuts were preloaded onto the 80/20, and I set it down and then just kind of fished out the T-nuts. It's pretty easy when you do it when the T-nuts are above your bracket, because the gravity holds the T-nut down, so you can just kind of gently thread it in there, and it seems to work fine. But it is a hassle. But working with 80/20 and the T-nuts, there's always issues with it. But anyways, that's what I did for getting the top rail on. All right, so the original plan for the camper I was going to have the top rail here and then the extension, which I've talked about earlier, but I'm going to go over the extension part. So the reason why I wasn't worried about not being able to support the weight with just the 1 inch by 2 inch is because I was going to have like a strut here. So basically I was going to have so I was going to build a strut that extended the entire length of the camper with some pieces like this. And so I thought that would give me enough support for anything up here in the front of the camper. I was going to use a piece of 1 inch by 2 inch, I think, here, but I'm using that up here for the roof, for temporary roof right now. But I thought that the strut would work out really well. But what I realized after driving around with what I have now is, let me take all this apart. All right, so I just didn't want all that to fall on the ground when I was talking. So the original idea was to have that strut here and extend the camper height by about, I can't remember how many, like 8 inches or so, or something like that. And I was going to use that space to be able to store the side panels and the bedding on the overcab of part of the camper. But what I realized when driving around is that, you know, this rail is 2 inches and the roof is currently 2 inches. So it's a total of 4 inches, is that I can still park in the underground parking lots, which is really nice. So what I was thinking was that, you know, for most road trips, I could just have it this set up, and if I'm going to do a really long road trip, then I can just have a extension that I can put on the camper really quick. So I can kind of tailor each trip or tailor the camper for each trip, depending on how much room I'm going to need. So, you know, that's totally fine if it takes me like 1 or 2 hours to put an extension on for a longer trip. But I'm not sure how long that would take me to take on and off. So anyways, with that strut though, it was going to support everything. And without it, I got to come up with a new method to be able to support enough weight here for 2 people to sleep on the overcap part. So this is the problem I got to solve. Or, you know, like I said, I can have the extension and be able to come on and off depending on what trip I'm doing. So for the back end of the top rail, I'm just using a 1 inch by 2 inch bracket here. For the inside of the camper, for the top rail, 2 by 2 bracket right here, and you can see the 1 by 2 on the outside there. So you can see the top rail in the front part of the camper is a little bit more complicated with that 45-degree cut. I still have to finish it by putting in this piece here, which will complete the shelf for the overcab part of the camper. With that extension, it does give me about 6 more inches on the front part of the camper. So the total length of the camper is going to be about 9 feet. So coming back to the back bracket here on the top rail, I just want to kind of show you that this doesn't overlap. And what I mean by that is we have the 2 pieces like this overlapping, and with the bracket, I have it more like that, so that it does extend out the rail just 1 more inch. On the top rail, I have all these hinges attached to it for the roof of the camper, and also the windows there. But those are going to change. These are just temporary. These are just regular 4 inch by 4 inch door hinges from Home Depot. And you can see here how I use these hinges to brace the camper open. So one of the things I forgot to mention was the maximum length of the 80-20 is 8.5 feet. And so that is really the main reason why I went with 8.5 feet. I didn't want to break it up into 2 different sections to make it any longer. 8.5 feet is totally fine. Like I said, when you deploy the queen size bed, it comes out to about here, and there's plenty of room on the end of the camper there to get on and off the bed. Also, the total height of the camper right now, which is going to change, is 6.5 feet. So that's plenty of room for me to get into most parking garages. I think the lowest one I've gone into now is 6 foot 9 inches. Still, you know, you only have just a few inches there to play around with, so I take it pretty slow and make sure that I don't scrape or anything like that. So for the camper, coming up in a later episode, is that I think I'm going to lower the entire camper down 1 inch. So this kind of what you see here on the top of the windows is going to go away, but that's going to come up here in a later episode. All right, so I think this better shows the strut system that I was thinking about, where the strut goes the entire perimeter of the camper. You have the top rail here of the camper, the roof of the camper, which I'm just representing as a 1 inch by 2 inch piece, but that's going to kind of change. So then the strut system here, you know, just have it completely come off like that. Knew that was going to happen. And then you can have the strut system out of there for when you're like, you know, just doing the daily driver, parking in parking garages and things like that. And then for the strut system, that Let me reconstruct it again here. You know, for the strut system, yeah, you know, I was thinking about having it covered with some metal there to give it some more structure, probably some 080, some pretty heavy stuff. But not necessarily having the 1x2s, but I don't know if I can do constructing the top and the bottom with 1x1. I'm not sure how much support that it needs. The strut, I think, has like a lot of vertical support and stuff like that, but when you have the sides of the camper kind of on here, there's going to be some lateral forces there, so it'll kind of push it this way. So I think it'll be okay, but you know, I still need to work out kind of the whole strut thing if that's something that I want to do. And then for the strut, it'd just be nice to be able to, you know, just have it just come off the camper, and then when you want to go on a big trip, you can put it back on the camper where it's on the top rail, and then put the roof here, and then you have that extra room on the overcab for storage of the bed and the side panels or something like that. And then the way I was thinking about attaching this strut was kind of the same way that I'm doing the side panels, or the brace here that I got here. And so this is the brace where I have like a 1/2 hinge here and a 1/2 inch here. And same thing, just put the 1/2 hinges on the top and bottom part of the strut there. And so when you could take the strut off and then use the hinges that are there to put everything on. And then when you want the strut on, you can just use the same hinges and put the pins in, and that should hold it pretty sturdy. And then probably put some extra connection points there to make sure that that's kind of all solid when you drive around. That's kind of what I was thinking on the whole strut thing, where it's kind of removable and I can store it in the garage fairly easy and see how that works. So that's kind of what I'm going towards, I think, is this solution. But for now, I'm just gonna, you know, just keep driving around with the just the top rail and the roof of the camper and the side panels, and see if that's going to be enough support on the overcab. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of the Camper Build. Like always, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.